Hey all, I'm Elaine. This is Elaine is XYZ, a vlog that's currently about how I organize my life using a physical journal. It's become this super important component of my existence because, well, I live with both ADHD and depression, and when the brain chemistry gets really bad, sometimes this could be the only lifeline I have to not completely turn into a full mashed potato of a person. I started utilizing these bullet journals about 2 years ago, and it's one organizational habit that I've actually been able to keep up. And I've gotten a lot out of it, and so I'm going to share it with you. I'll start by saying that I'm not really a huge planner aestheticist. There are hundreds of YouTubers out there that make some absolutely wildly gorgeous books with stickers and stamps and all these pretty who's its and what's its. And occasionally I will stumble across them and find them wildly aspirational and wonder if I should get into all those stickers and stamps and who's its and what's its. But as I mentioned, I have the ADHD and depression flavors of neurospiciness. That means I would likely get obsessed with making my book really, really, really pretty for all of one iteration of it. And then absolutely I will lose interest and never use it again. In fact, the thought of doing all that work a second time will likely cause me so much psychic pain that I might not touch a notebook for months afterwards. And then the guilt of not doing this thing that I've already invested so many resources into will cause me to enter a shame spiral. And, well, I just know myself well enough to avoid all that heartache. So yeah, compared to those works of art, what I have is pretty utilitarian. Still, it's what works for me, and it might also work for you. All you need is any kind of bullet journal and a couple of colorful pens on hand, and let me show you. All right, we're all set up here. When I was in China, there were always a bunch of art markets where young creators were selling journals custom made with their art. This is the one I used all through 2022. But here in America, I've mostly been using notebooks I get as conference swag and pasting cat stickers over the logos of the companies. As for the colored pens, because I have ADHD, all black pen looks so boring that my brain won't focus on what's on the page. And because of my depression, I need things to be somewhat pretty. Because seeing pretty things helps remind me that pretty things do in fact exist in the world. And that's just enough of a mood boost to keep me going for another couple of minutes. So it's taken me quite a bit of experimentation across these 2 years to figure out the details of what truly works for me. But that's the beauty of a bullet journal. You're not stuck in one type of system. So if something doesn't work one month, you can try something else the next. And well, it's August, my birthday month, and I'm more or less done with my last book, so it's time to draw up something completely new together. So one idea that's remained consistent is this one-page-month habit tracker dashboard. As you can see, the look has changed somewhat as the habits I've wanted to track have gained or lost priority, but the concept is still the same. I have issues with time blindness, which means that I will shuffle through days and days that don't really register. And that means that sometimes with activities I'm trying to work more regularly into my life, like drawing or exercising, I'll go, oh, but I feel like I have been practicing that consistently, only to realize that the last time I actually did draw or exercise was 2 months ago. This habit tracker is less something to push me to do the listed habit every day and more to help me actually grasp that, yes, shockingly, I haven't done that thing. I should prioritize time for it. Okay, so this month's habits are actually basically the same as last month's. There's this section for fitness in which I track when I make 10,000 steps a day, if I do 15 minutes of stretching, and if I do any strength exercises. There is the encouraging lessening of bad habits section in which I note days that I did not drink or I did not eat meat. There is the encouraging of learning skills section, in which I record whether I've done the aforementioned drawing, I've done anything related to music, or if I spent some time learning languages. I'm currently focusing on French and Japanese, and I've got to admit, Duolingo's helped a lot with at least being able to write a little dot in here consistently. This final part has always been a bit of a grab bag. But recently I've been using it for when I actually work on this Elaine is XYZ project and when I actually work on finding myself a job. And then this final section is for notes, which is basically if we're writing in any big events that I've already got scheduled. I do more than one thing a day occasionally, but this helps alert me that there is, in fact, at least one activity with a set time that I'm committed to. And if I want to plan another activity with someone else, I'll need to actually bring up my digital calendar to book it in. I don't know which neurospice to attribute this to, but I oftentimes get immediately anxious when people ask me if I'm free because I automatically begin to imagine scenarios where I have disappointed people by either forgetting about them or aggravated these people after canceling on them because I had double booked them. Or I just have too many other social get togethers right before or right after them, and my introverted ass cannot handle that much face to face people interaction. In the meantime, I will also get anxious when I don't have a lot of activities planned because I automatically begin to imagine a life for myself where I am unwanted by anybody and I slowly fade into obscurity and oblivion. I need to work on those mental tics. I know they aren't reasonable, but in the meantime, seeing the spaces in this book helps tremendously in reassuring myself that my life is robust but not overstuffed. And so that's the one page that's remained consistent. The second page I've set up now to record some big monthly goals, no more than 3, and also to give me a place to list the things throughout the month that I do based off my general life aspirations. So things like community building, making my home more functional, and any kind of content I fully finished consuming, and any kind of new food and drink experiences that I finish consuming as well. I usually do a new month up close to the end of the last month, mostly because I want to keep the system flexible. And that allows me to see if, for instance, the habits that I'm recording are working for me and give me some ideas of what I need to focus on next. Then the rest of the pages are for, well, a grab bag of uses, really. Okay, so I'll be the first to admit I'm not a very consistent person. Trying to be consistent and thus create systems that rely on consistency have really not done much throughout these years except for make me hate myself. With ADHD, my perception of time can be overridden by a number of things. An appointment in the near enough future that it paralyzes me into wait mode for like an hour or two. A webcomic that's caught my attention that I suddenly have to read the entire run of. A new hobby that I absolutely cannot choose to not lose sleep over. And with my depression, sometimes I barely have the energy to brush my teeth. Which makes certain self-help advice that's become popular lately more or less useless for me. Things like morning pages or even journal prompts are absolutely impossible for me to keep up on. Trust me, I've tried. But I've also long realized that there is value in keeping a record of what might have happened day to day, helping to moor myself in the time stream. And what's worked for me is a vastly shorter version of journaling that expects very little but gives me the freedom to expound if I truly want to write more. I write the date, the day of the week, and then one sentence about what I remember happening then. That's really it. Sometimes when I'm feeling big feelings, that can turn into a page. Sometimes when I'm just trying to catch up because 2 or 3 days got away from me, it's not a page. Low barrier to entry is key. Another task that the physical journal has been extremely helpful for is making lists. Lots and lots of lists. I know, what a surprise. The ADHD person likes making lists. But what can I say? It's really useful to get stuff out of my head and onto paper in a way that I can then physically manipulate and reorganize.
In my most foggy-brained moments, I will list things in 2 steps. The first step is to just blurt out everything as a checklist onto paper, even if what I'm blurting out is a half-formed thought, like, what is the ideal cadence for getting work done? Or even the kind of human bare minimum task, like brush teeth, take a shower. Hey, they all take time, which means they take brain space, which means I need to throw them on here. Then the second step is to actually try and categorize those thoughts. If everything on the page is a whole mess of brain vomit, I use a red pen to mark the most urgent or easy tasks to knock off first, and then choose which order to do them. I'll then write that into its own numbered list and leave the book open and get to doing those tasks one by one. If there are a lot of specific but more varied project tasks, then I use a blue pen to mark which project they actually belong to. And then on the next pages, I'll create more organized sections that I then put those tasks into. Why don't you create those sections to begin with, Elaine?
Because the act of trying to organize first, when I have no idea of what else is going to pop into my head, is paralyzing. What if there's only one task for the section that I created? What a waste of a section. What if one section overflows because I didn't give it enough space? Oh, the horror. What if by creating one section, I've suddenly thought of 3 tangential but generally unrelated things that I also need to do, and then I'm stuck thinking about how to fit them into the sections that I've already created, but that might be impossible, which means I can't do it, which means I then go scream into a pillow and call it quits for today. No, dump it all out first and then organize.
And finally, my physical journal is great for this last thing, which I'm actually going to try to encourage myself to do more this year. One of the reasons I love having a grid, more than lines, is that it provides enough structure to write, but also enough freedom to draw. I'm not a particularly good artist, but I'm a very visual thinker, kind of the reason why I need the multicolor pens to help add some dimension to the writing, and I occasionally get the urge to doodle. In fact, I don't know why or how I've, as an adult, stopped naturally drawing as much. All of my high school and college notebooks had margins that would have put medieval monk manuscript illuminators to shame.
I think I tried to structure it into my life more, but with that structure came quite a lot of pressure. And I have this goal hovering above me, like, get better at art. You really ought to be better at art. And so I'd become obsessed suddenly with like efficiently learning how to get better at art, which would then have me going down YouTube rabbit holes of specific kind of sketching techniques, which I would watch instead of actually drawing. And then I'd spend a lot of extra time debating what to even practice first, which would cause choice paralysis because there's just so many different things to improve. And then when I can't even get started because I can't figure out what to do first, I just go scream into a pillow and call it quits for the day. Suddenly it's a month later and I haven't touched anything art-wise.
So here's what I'm trying instead. I put this one page in the back of my book of things to practice, and every time I have a moment but don't know what to draw, I'll just close my eyes and do whatever my finger lands on. Googling a reference is okay, but at least in the moment, no tutorials. We'll see how it goes.
All right, now to find the appropriate cat sticker to place over this logo. And it's basically done. This is the journal that I'm going to be keeping for this year of my life. If anything drastic changes with it, maybe I'll do another one of these. But until then, if you found this useful, please like and subscribe, and see you next time doing whatever it is I happen to be doing. Bye!